if you've ever wondered about the power of plants, or let's just say, how reasonable is it to think that an intentional approach to mindfully eating could literally change your health? Sounds too simple to be true for some of us. But that is not the case for our beautiful joining us today. Dr. Lanise Stevenson has some gems to drop and some personal experiences that has led her to be, as you can see, for those of you tuning in to the visually, beautifully aesthetic that you're seeing here, how beautiful you are. But how did you get to where you are today, and what did that journey look like? Well, if you are debating about how intentional you need to be about your health, sis, this conversation is for you. It's your girl, Coach Nick, with Beautifully Well Conversations. Stay tuned. Well, Dr. Lanise, it's so great to have you on our episode.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. Tell our ladies a little bit about yourself.
Wow, it's a whole mouthful. I am a published researcher on love and belonging. I am a board certified clinical hypnotherapist. I am a naturopath practitioner, Ayurvedic practitioner. I do all the things to help heal the mind, body, and the spirit for my clients. But I also am a survivor of many things. I'm a survivor of, well, I always say not a survivor, a thriver of domestic violence, sexual assault, and thyroid cancer, among some of those things. And so for me, I am a person who has learned to thrive and be resilient no matter what the circumstances are. And so I'm really excited to talk about a part of my journey today with you.
And we thank you for joining us, and the transparency as well. Um, just, there's so much. I'll tell you, when we talked a little bit over a week ago, it was, how do you piece together or just find maybe one key thing to focus on? Because just as you mentioned, you've endured a lot, you've gone through a lot, and then your professional life, I'll tell you, your bio should be about 45 pages. So what we're going to do today is dive into the journey, the holistic health journey, the holistic health approach, because we know that we'll be able to tap back into Dr. Lanise so that we can explore a number of topics affecting women, and the perseverance, the resilience, as you mentioned, as a thriver. Those experiences our ladies will truly resonate with. So let's dive into, thyroid cancer isn't something that we talk a lot about.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet I'm certain that it affects a lot of people. What should every woman know about thyroid cancer? And then tell us, start with, even when you were diagnosed.
So that's an interesting experience. So one thing that I will say first is it was really important for me to have a primary care physician who was with me for the long haul. My primary care physician just retired 2 years ago, and she was with me for 27 years. So she was like a mom. And so having someone to care for you and to be able to really work with around your health, because she's not responsible for my health. I am responsible for my health. But really having a thought partner really was a game changer for me. But I'll talk to you about how that relationship became a little tense after my thyroid cancer diagnosis. And so I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer at 18. I was in college. I was
Wow.
actually a sophomore at Morgan State University, and I was in the pre-med track. So, I've loved science forever, and I had already studied the body. But more importantly, I walked into this world with special gifts and a resilience that's indescribable. And I knew that I could heal people, but I also knew I could heal myself. And so when I was 15 years old, my doctor ran some tests, guess normal blood work, And she started to look at my neck, and she noticed that there was a bulge. And they tested all of my hormone levels, and they told me that I had a goiter. And so the first thing I would say is you have to know your body. Like, I do body scans internally and externally. I look at everything every single day. I'm not just looking, oh, am I beautiful today? No, what does everything look like? What does everything feel like? So that when something happens, that initial warning sign, I can recognize it. And so we worked for a while. She monitored, scanned everything for a few years. And then she, of course, sent me to the endocrinologist, who looks at, that area through a silo. They're not looking at all of the things that could be happening that's impacting your thyroid. And so, yeah. And so from there, they told me that I had thyroid cancer. And they told me, I mean, it was just so quick. Like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to go to and I was like, pause. No, that's not how we do things. I'm a very calm person, and we do things in decency and in order. It's not a rush for me. I need to understand what's happening. I had already studied the thyroid when I was in high school and college. And I said, there was just something in my gut that told me that I was not going to no chemotherapy, no radiation. I'm definitely not taking your medicine for the rest of my life. And you're not cutting my thyroid out. My body was made perfect. And so I decided to do a lot of research, and I cured myself. I do not have a goiter. They did not take my thyroid. I did not take their medicine because I would have been taking it now. And when I became a teacher, I'm not talking about my career today, but maybe 7 years after that, I became a teacher, a science teacher. And one of my students was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and she died within a year. She did everything they told her to do, and she died. And it stuck with me for a long time because I saw her suffer. I told her about my story, which I, always tell my students about. And she decided to, go take the route because she trusted her primary care physician, but that wasn't her primary care physician for a long time. So they're coming in looking at symptoms for treatment and not looking at the root cause. And so
And you know what?
Go
I
ahead.
don't want to cut you off here, but I'm telling you, you've said so much
Yeah.
that I just want to break this down, because what I'm hearing in this story is a powerful display of autonomy
Yeah.
and self-advocacy. And while we know we're not giving you medical advice, listeners, what you are listening for is the fact that at the end of the day, you get to make decisions, and you want to be in a position where you even understand what's happening with your health. I'm like, you knew. I would love to dig into the journey through the thyroid cancer, because my heart goes out to you experiencing the loss of a young one who relied on what they thought was going to help them. And
Yeah.
we see it so often because in traditional healthcare, it's just, this is the issue, let's treat the issue. Not realizing that there are so many other things that could be out of whack, misaligned, that if I align it or if I reduce it, then that's going to literally change my metabolic health. Um, and this is happening every day. We're talking about thyroid cancer, but you and I know, Dr. Lanise, we see this with so many other illnesses. So in your research, or actually throughout that time, um, just tell us a little bit of some of the things that you did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So first of all, I have a personal relationship with me. And I think that it's not evident that needs to be stated. I check in with me, like I said, every single day. And so there was something inside of me, a voice that said, no, this is not what it is. And that's not something that you can teach someone. that's a relationship that they have to build with themselves. But I also knew you are what you eat, right? And so if my body was malfunctioning, it wasn't achieving a balance or a state of homeostasis, then that was something that I was doing. Was it something I was rubbing on myself? What, chemicals in a lotion? Was it my deodorant? Was it what I was eating? Was, what I was eating more than what I thought? I wasn't thinking about the pesticides, all of those things. Or was it something that I was breathing in that I did not know, right? We had to take in our nutrients, but we also take in a lot of toxins. And so I started to immediately eliminate different things from my diet, eliminate different chemicals and lotions and all of that to have a baseline. And so I will tell you the pivotal moment for me was when I went for a test and I had to drink this solution. And if anyone has had to go through some sort of internal test, oftentimes they'll give you a solution so that it'll light up everything on the inside. And when I tell you, I was sick from that solution for like 2 weeks. I mean, sick, sick, sick. And I said, wait a minute, if this is just the test, I know absolutely not. I had to wound up taking off from school for 2 weeks. And that's a lot, when you're in college. And so I will go to the endocrinologist visits, and my endocrinologist would just talk at me. This is what you need to do, as if he was in control of me. And I was like asking questions, and he did not want to answer my questions. So when I was like, okay, so if I take your medicine, when can I get off of it? And he was like, you can never. And it was a matter of fact, you can never get off of this. And I said, well, why would I want to do that at 18? I plan to live a long time, right? I am way more than 18 right now. And I could not imagine having a responsibility to take pills every single day for the rest of my life. And I said, well, what happens if I don't take the pills? He said, you'll die. Okay, well, yeah, I'm not signing up for that. So if I don't take the pills, I run the risk of dying. But if I do take the pills and I decide to stop, I'm definitely going to die. Yeah, I'm not doing that. And so I told my parents, I'm going to take this in my own hands. And my parents have known me all my life. And at 18, they knew that I was very self-directed. I had a sense of self, and I knew how to advocate. And they appreciated that. And so they knew I would figure it out. Were they afraid? Probably. They didn't share that.
Can you imagine?
But they saw me go through a lot and be resilient and just figure it out. And so the first thing I did was I eliminated meat, because I started doing reading information and watching documentaries on the meat that we consume. So I'm thinking that it's coming from a farm, a local farm. Nope. It's coming from a warehouse. It's coming from a plant. And that meat is from animals that could have been, reared anywhere. And in fact, they're probably reared really close together, eating their poop, just in toxic environments. And that's what I was consuming. So I'm like, okay, so let me scratch that off. I'm not going to be consuming that. And then something happened. And we didn't get to talk about this before. I had heart palpitations before that, and I didn't realize I was having heart palpitations until they stopped. So when I eliminated meat, all kinds of meat from my diet, my heart palpitations stopped. Oh. And so then I continued to check on my body. When I would eat something, I again would pay attention. I know that if my body likes something, there's a sense of vitality and energy when I eat it. And if I eat something that my body doesn't like, my stomach automatically becomes upset. And so I would say, no, yes, nope, nope, nope. And even if it was something that I really liked, like it tastes good to me, I knew that it was more important for me to live, right? So I'm eating to live, not to desire or to satisfy some temporary desire.
You reevaluated your relationship with food.
Absolutely.
We talk a lot about that. It's seeing food as nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
knowing that whatever we introduce to our body is going to have one or two effects.
That's
It's
something.
either going to, you hit it on the nose, Dr. Lanise, when you said the vitality, the energy
Yep.
versus, our bodies are amazing. The wisdom of the body.
Yeah.
It's just, I was talking to Maisha, another one of our Dove sisters, who was a pharmacist. And, in our conversation, when we talked about food, it was the fact that at the end of the day, it's this heightened awareness
Mm-hmm.
of how we feel,
Yep.
and being able to determine what side of the spectrum do we want to fall on in terms of this relationship, just like
Yeah.
it would be with a person. What are you bringing to the table?
Yeah.
Am I benefiting from this right now, or am I going to pay for this later? So you mentioned the meat, and how those heart palpitations went away because we're in a very toxic environment,
Yeah.
toxic overload, inflammation crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What was the second thing you noticed, or what was the second thing that you did?
So the second thing I did was, and it connects to the meat a little bit. When I started to think about not just what I'm putting on me, what I'm ingesting, and what I'm breathing in, I thought about the animals, right? And so I said, well, what are the meat derivatives like milk? Because if I'm not eating the cow, but I'm still drinking the milk, I'm still consuming whatever toxins that animal has gotten. And so I eliminated milk. And back then, when I was 18, that was a long time ago, there were not a lot of milk alternatives. I mean, it was just like, what are you doing? But I knew that that was not for me. And then I started to have like create a little campaign with my family. And I would say, I mean, why are you drinking the cow's milk? You're a human being. How can that cow's milk be nourishment? And what is the government telling us that's not the truth? I've always been that type of person,
Period.
to question, why are you telling us to do this? What is the benefit for you, not simply for us? And so after that, I stopped getting upset stomachs. And the next year after that, I did not tell my doctor what I was doing because all they kept telling me every time I went to my appointment is, you really need to go to treatment. You really need to go to treatment. And so I told them, your job is to help me monitor my health, not to direct my health. This is my life. This is not your life. So the decisions that you're making for me don't primarily affect you. I am simply a patient.
Mhm.
And they just thought that I was crazy because remember, I'm 18, 19
You're
years old.
18. You're
Who is
right.
talking like this? And so I still had to see the endocrinologist regularly, had to see my primary care, and they kept running scans. They kept, you know, looking, oh, well, it's not getting better, blah, 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 blah. My weight was fluctuating because my thyroid was out of control. And what I did not think about was I also was on birth control. So I
Mhm.
started to research the side effects of birth control. And when I read the side effects of the birth control, I was like, whoa.
Wow.
So I'm taking this for one thing, but the side effects are unbelievable. I would rather get pregnant than have to endure these things. And I learned that heart palpitations can occur as a result of birth control. So it was the checking in, elimination of things. When I stopped taking the birth control, then I stopped having issues with my skin. And I'm like just going through the elimination period with validation because every single time I
Absolutely.
made a decision that was based on my gut and information, I was rewarded with better health to the point that we go to maybe 3 or 4 years after that, my goiter went down. As you can see, don't have one. Um, my scans came out clean, and my doctor was like, "What did you do?" And I said, "I told you what I was going to do. I was going to do this by myself because we couldn't partner on my decision because you were telling me what you wanted me to do." And so I went off and did it myself. And do you know, every single year after that, they did the same scans. I mean, they would send me for all these tests, and there was nothing, no signs. 27 years later,
There you go. Woohoo!
27
Thriving.
years later, my doctor was retiring. She did the last set of scans. I went to her for our last appointment, and she just cried. We have a picture actually together. We both were crying because she really was an example of a mom. And, our parents are not perfect. They care about us, they have consistency and knowledge about us. But ultimately, my parents aren't responsible for my health. It is me, it rests with me. And that's one thing that my parents taught me early. This is your life. The decisions that you make are about you. So you can't blame us. You can't blame, yourself. You have to own it. It's not about blaming. You have to make a decision that's best for you, right? And so if there's a lesson to be learned, it is that you hold the solutions for yourself. The sanctuary rests inside of who you are, not who your friend is, not who your doctor is.
Absolutely.
You have to have that sanctuary inside of you, that quiet, peaceful place. So that's where it was, that's where it is. And I just got a bioscan, and I'll share my bioscan results for you around my thyroid. It's perfect. It is absolutely better than the average the average human. And so you talk about validation. I didn't even need it at this point, but I'm glad to see it.
And there's some factors that I hope we all take away from this. One, you had a physician, your healthcare team consisted of people who were well aware of
Mhm.
your health history. And with the way healthcare is going today, how many of us can say that our providers know us inside and out, that your chart has not gone across it's
Yeah.
it's exchanged so many hands, you've had to change insurances however number of times. And
Yes.
so it really speaks to the fact that whether your healthcare team is well aware of you, they're familiar with you, you've built that relationship,
Mhm.
that
Yes.
connection. It's great if you have your own advocacy, but what advice or what tips would you give a woman who does not have the healthcare team that has been with her for numerous years, a decade plus?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
does she advocate in that healthcare setting to make sure she gets what she needs?
Thank you for acknowledging the privilege that I had to have consistent insurance, all those kinds of things. Um, I would say that when you go in, the relationship between you and your healthcare provider is that you are the boss and they are your team. So you
That's it.
have to establish the role that, oh, no, 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 I make the decision. You can consult with me. That's what I'm paying you for. And I know you have about 15 minutes. So we're going to
Right.
make this happen. So
We're going to make it work.
I'm going to front load information to you because we're going to maximize the time that we have together. And so you have to think about, how can I make this appointment as efficient and effective for me as possible? No, nobody else has control over that. You do. And if you don't believe that you do, then you're giving that power to someone else.
That's a book. So if you have not written that book, it is at least a chapter.
Yeah.
This is the pre-work, right? When we think about, I always say we are the CEO of our own lives.
Absolutely.
And as such, if we view our health similar to a business, there's
Yep.
planning, there's strategic planning. We know we have limited time in front of our clinicians, physicians. That time is limited with them. How do we make the most of it? Sis, you have to plan it.
Yes.
What, and write down those symptoms, because menopause brain is real. I swear to you, I've forgotten 3 thoughts in 3 seconds. So this thought that we can just show up puts us at the mercy of whatever information is given.
Yeah. Yeah.
So phenomenal
Oh,
story.
thank you.
I have to recap this because when we say lifestyle changes is not a trend.
No, it's not.
It's not a new phase. Like this
No,
stuff has been around
been.
forever,
Yes.
but we're society conditioned
Yeah.
that if you had to choose between medication, we're not, to each his own, your personal, whatever you're dealing with, but we're just saying, but to question and not look at medication as the sole source of your healing.
Yeah.
That lifestyle track is incredible. I do want to, before I touch on the 5 points that supported you being able to no longer have thyroid cancer.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about maybe some of the decisions you made, maybe skincare, maybe certain products.
Oh, yeah.
To what next level did you go
Absolutely. Yeah.
beyond the food and the dairy?
Well, as
The
you
meat
can
and dairy.
see, there is beautiful. This is like no, it's flawless skin. I don't have makeup on, all that kind of stuff. This is how I show up. No filters, no
Yeah.
nothing. Um, I want to touch upon something. I'm going to come right back to that, but I want to touch upon something that you said in your last comment that is so important. The Western medical system does a very good job at treating symptoms. And so the medications that we're taking treat symptoms, but it doesn't treat the root cause. And before Western medicine came along, there was a medical system that was working effectively, that is still working today for people outside of the Western world. And I have traveled around the globe. I have seen the effects of that. I have seen true healing. I have gone to a medicine doctor to address other concerns that were not terrible. It was just signals from my body that I needed to do something, right? And so it's really important to have a relationship with the Western medical system that if I go and say I have this symptom, they're going to treat it. So you have to be careful what you are diagnosing or self-diagnosing as a symptom, because it could be something that is a warning sign of something different. But let's talk about what I put on me. So everybody doesn't have a lot of time to research all the chemicals, but most of the time when you're buying cheap products, you're going to have products that have a lot of preservatives in it, a lot of fragrance in it, but not a lot of the active ingredient that actually nourishes your skin, moisturizes it, clears up your blemishes. Your blemishes are indication of inflammation and imbalance in your body. So you have to treat those problems from the inside out. And a healthy diet, rich in like diversity in the foods that you're eating, is going to cure most of the things that you have. But for the last 30 years, let me say that again, 30, last 30 years, I have been using skincare that's organic, that has nourished my skin. I'll be 45 years old and I still have baby skin right now all over my body. And my skin is moisturized. I'm not giving you advice about sunscreen, but when I started to read the ingredients in the average sunscreen, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. Nope, nope, nope. And so I use Origin Skincare. I should, have some sort of
Ambassador deal.
yeah, because I tell everybody about it when they ask me. And initially, when we were younger, we all had young looking skin. I mean, that was, the time. And I would say, y'all should really change this. It keeps the moisture in your skin. And now some of my friends, they have older looking skin and they're using all of these products again that have preservatives in it. Those preservatives are toxins.
Yeah. Toxic overload.
Preservatives, toxins, or additives make things addictive, right? And so I also only use a blend of the natural ingredient. So I'm going to use rose hip oil because my skin is rosy, it calms it down. Oh, I'm just getting the rose hip oil. I'm not
That's
getting
it.
all the why do they have all these extra things in there? And you have to look at the labels and ask yourself, number one, Why did they add it? Number two, what is it doing to me?
Right.
Because if it was doing something good, they would put it on a label on the front, but they don't. And then what they get away with is just putting fragrance. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, anything that they're doing that's good for you, they're going to blast it and market it everywhere. So if they're
Yeah.
saying they have fragrance in a product, but they're not telling you what it is, they're not telling you what it does for you, then it's not good for you. It's that simple. It's about business. It's about the
Yeah.
bottom line. And so you have to think that way.
Yeah. The lack of transparency
Mhm.
in product labeling, the same method you use to eliminate meat, just looking at its source,
Yep.
and that heightened awareness on how it made your body feel. Second was connecting meat to those dairy products.
Yep.
And then even recognizing the side effects of birth control, which so many of our young ladies are on for various reasons, bad cramping, the whole nine. It's, the side effects, we think about the long-term side effects because how long are we typically on birth control pills? So another mic drop, like let's just get real about the side effects and even long-term what this could do, even in terms of fertility as well. And then that self-advocacy, I'm just going to keep going back and forth with, and even just reaching a point where it did not matter your age. You did not allow your age at that time to discourage you from having these, what I call big girl conversations
Oh, yeah.
in front of the authorities, right? And for your scans to show that you are the picture of health in terms of your thyroid, and that the journey that you took was not just the thyroid.
No.
This is lifelong. We are multiple decades from that time.
Yeah.
And you are here with us because you put your health first. You also researched and you stayed dedicated to your personal goals. Well, when I say, for those of you listening, I know you cannot wait for a part two. I can't either because I want to dive into a few other things.
Yeah.
This is going to be, let's see, what have we learned today that literally your self advocacy adds years to your life.
Yes. Yes.
It's not something we take lightly. And I believe you said this. I'll go back to the notes. But we have to flip our mindset when we interact
Yes.
with our healthcare practitioners. We're not going there waiting for them to tell us what to do. This is a relationship as well where we dance together.
Yeah.
And if they're stepping on your toes in the midst of the dance, then that means you need a new partner.
Absolutely. You
Um,
got to be careful about your I am. We talk about this in pop culture a lot, but pop culture doesn't do a good job of carrying on a deep conversation. So they just give you one thing. Well, when you manifest, you need to say I am. The reason why you must say I am, and you have to be careful what you say after that, is because it's connected to your identity, not who people say you are, but who you say you are. I am a healer. I knew that from the very beginning. I told my doctors that. So everything that manifested from that was healing. If I said I'm a victim, guess what happens? I'm victimized, right? If I say I'm a survivor, guess what happens? I keep surviving things. And that's why in the beginning when I said I'm a survivor of this, and just so I could connect like that idea, but then I course corrected and said, but I don't normally say I'm a survivor. I say I'm a thriver because it's important for people to understand my identity. And so I'm saying to your listeners, it's important for you to first understand who you are, and you that you're congruent with that nobody, I don't care what their authority is. I'm a doctor, so what? I should not be able to tell you about you. I always say doctors should be the biggest students. And so you have to treat your practitioners, like they're your students. You have the authority on you. And I would leave that with you as one of the most important components.
That's a big one. That is a big one. And I knew this would come out of the conversation, which is why we started our conversation on how you are thriving beyond a thyroid cancer diagnosis. You are truly living a life where your health is first, it is a priority, and you are the boss.
Yeah.
And everyone else centered around your life, they are there and they fit for various reasons. They bring certain things, but at the end of the day, their connection should be to add value, sustainability, positive energy, good energy to you. So this was an excellent, awesome conversation. So many takeaways. I want us to promise to continue the conversation.
Absolutely.
Dr. Lanise, we are Westernites, Dove Sisters. I'm
Yes.
excited that this is happening during a time where we're about to get excited about the unity that we experience as women
Yes.
and the wonderful things that are happening and the impact. I mean, you have so much on your plate, and yet you set aside the time to not only, with full transparency, share your journey, but inspire our beautifuls. And for that, I am very appreciative. I want us to be able to connect with you. You'll be able to find this information in the audio and the visual as well. But Dr. Lanise, what is the best way for our listeners to get in contact with you or learn a little bit more about you?
So I have my website for holistic health. It's www.iamlivinginflow.com. You can find me on Instagram at I am living in flow, FLOW, as well. And then my Instagram at Dr. underscore Lanise. And you can see my real life behind the curtain. And so you can connect with me that way. I love to hear your stories and to provide support to you.
Awesome. I want to get a quick picture. That is so awesome. And beautifuls, if you're staying tuned, we want to see you back for another amazing, beautifully well conversation. And you know the line, you're already beautiful. Let's get beautifully well.